Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and we have an exciting show, as always, in store for you. We are going to give you some breaking news. We've got some really interesting New York State updates. We're, of course, going to talk about Minnesota. We're going to talk about Venezuela. And in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to talk with our good friend, Joe Tobia. And now that is not because of the Steuben County Legislature, which he is a part of. It is because soon is the induction ceremony for the Corning Paint and Post Sports Hall of Fame. And we're going to find out all about that in the 7 o'clock hour. Okay. First, by the way, later on in the program, we do have a Climate Fact Friday Bob text, because it's Friday. And we always appreciate Climate Fact Friday, Bob, but I'm not going to start the program with it. I'm going to keep you waiting. Okay, starting off, this is very breaking news. Very breaking news. This is, compared to other breaking news, this is an important announcement. President Trump said that he had canceled a previously expected second wave of attacks on Venezuela due to the country's cooperation with the United States. The announcement came in a Truth Social post very early this morning. I want to say just moments ago, maybe an hour ago. He praised the action of Venezuela's acting government. Venezuela is releasing a large number of political prisoners as a sign of seeking peace, wrote Trump. This is a very important and smart gesture. He went on to say that the two nations are working well together, especially as it pertains to rebuilding in a much bigger, better, and more modern form their oil and gas infrastructure. Because of this cooperation, I've canceled the previously expected second wave of attacks, which looks like it will not be needed. However, all ships will stay in place for safety and security purposes. Now, this comes as the U.S. president, leave it to CNN to word it that way, is set to meet at the White House today with executives from major oil companies to persuade them to increase Venezuela's oil output and make new investments in the country. He claimed that at least $100 billion will be invested by big oil. But according to CNN, the oil industry has expressed serious skepticism about ponying up tens of billions of dollars over a decade to restore Venezuelans' oil infrastructure. But Trump has canceled, again, the second wave of attacks on Venezuela due to their cooperation. That coming in just moments ago. All right, let's kick off the program. We've got a lot of, I'm not going to lie to you, a lot of doom and gloom. That's the nature of the news business. But I thought to keep it hyper local, so to speak, and have some great news to start off the program coming from New York upstate. Watkins Glen State Park is the most trending state park in America. A gem of the Finger Lakes that boasts 19 waterfalls within 2 gorgeous miles, topped the list of Google's most trending state parks in 2025. The list showed which state parks received the highest year-over-year increase in searches between January of 2025 and November 25th of 2025. Watkins Glen earned the number 1 spot on the list. Nevada's Valley of Fire State Park ranked number 2, and New Jersey's Liberty State Park earned the number 3 spot. The parks included in Google's wrap-up of the most trending state parks represents the questions that increased the fastest in search interest. That means interest in Watkins Glen spiked higher and faster than any other state park across the vast United States. And by the way, Watkins wasn't the only New York State Park on the list. Letchworth State Park was as well. But I don't know how you congratulate a state park, but congratulations is due to Watkins Glen State Park, reaching the number 1 most trending state parks in 2025. How about kicking off the program with that? Okay. On breaking news, before we get into kind of the deeper discussions later in the program, Russia yesterday rejected Trump's 20-point peace plan for Ukraine. Not necessarily surprising. I guess the only thing that's surprising is they didn't create a fake attack to thwart the process. A tense statement from Moscow's Ministry of Foreign Affairs slammed the U.S.-European proposal for security assurances for Ukraine, saying the protection plan amounts to a, quote, true axis of war. The document turned out to be extremely far from a peace settlement. The declaration is not aimed at achieving a lasting peace and security, but rather at continuing the militarization, escalation, and further conflict aggravation. Its core element is the deployment of a multinational force on Ukrainian territory that the coalition will have to form to contribute to the rebuilding of the Ukrainian armed forces and support deterrence following the cessation of the hostilities. So again, not necessarily surprised, though disappointing, that Russia has rejected the peace plan. Russia did, again, in an act of aggression, fire nuclear-capable missiles in their latest attack against Ukraine. It was a nuclear-capable missile fired at Ukraine late yesterday in a retaliatory strike for the alleged attack on an official residence of President Vladimir Putin, which Zelensky has said is complete lies, which I would tend to agree with. The President Trump also saying that we don't believe that happened. They're called Orshnik hypersonic missiles, and they were launched from a strategic nuclear testing site during a massive overnight bombing on the western Ukrainian city of Lviv, less than 50 miles from the Polish border. So that coming in late last night, early this morning. Now, the New York Post editorial board saying last night that President Donald Trump has come out in support of the bipartisan bill to impose secondary sanctions on Putin's Russia. Senate Majority Leader John Thune and House Speaker Mike Johnson take note. This is a chance for fast bipartisan action that could ease the bitter divisions in Washington. The White House has confirmed Senator Lindsey Graham's report that Trump now backs the toughened sanctions bill. Whatever straw finally broke, the president's patience with Putin, whether Moscow's blistering rejection of the peace plan or the Kremlin's efforts to help a ghost fleet oil tanker evade U.S. forces, Congress can finally make Putin feel enough pain to find making peace his best option. Graham says the bipartisan legislation will punish those countries who buy cheap Russian oil, fueling Putin's war machine. It targets the 10-nation BRICS bloc, including Brazil, India, Iran, China, and South Africa, that have been abetting Russia despite international sanctions. As Lindsey Graham noted, Ukraine is making concessions for peace, and Putin is all talk, continuing to kill the innocent. Moscow is still striving to break Kiev's will. Secondary sanctions can instead crush the Kremlin's resolve. Putin doesn't dare let his civilian population suffer from more of his obsession with conquest. Yes, the House and Senate have plenty on their plates, but getting this bill passed must be a top priority. Delay in doing Putin's work for him. Don't protect his war machine. All right. Also, we're going to be moving quickly this morning. So that's just on Russia and Ukraine. We have a couple things we're not going to be able to segue to. It would just be impossible. But according to a report by Ronnie Rees, Danish troops have been ordered to shoot first and ask questions later if Greenland is invaded. Danish troops must open fire, even without direct orders, if invaders try to capture Greenland by force, according to Denmark's defense ministry. The ministry confirmed that soldiers are required to uphold a Civil War-era rule to, quote, immediately take up the fight, end quote, against any foreign force threatening Danish territory. The 1952 directive states that troops must fight without waiting for commands, even if their leaders are unaware of a formal declaration of war. The order was initially created as a result of the Nazi attack on Denmark in 1940, when the country's communication system partially collapsed and military units were left unsure of how to respond to the invading army. The order has since remained standing in Denmark, which oversees Greenland, and has rejected President Trump's proposal for the U.S. to purchase or seize land. Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen slammed the Trump administration's latest attempts to claim the island as a U.S. territory, saying an attack on the autonomous territory would mark an end to the NATO defense alliance. If the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, he said on Monday. We reported that on Monday. So shoot first and ask questions later if Greenland is invaded. Wow, we got a lot of waves, a lot of comments coming in. Keep them coming in. We'll read those when we come back from break. Also, I hate to say it this way, there's been so many threats on President Trump's life that sometimes we're not even aware of them or they're not reported on. This is one that I missed, but we are now finding out more about it. A Wisconsin teen has pleaded guilty to killing his parents so he could steal their money and fund an assassination attempt on President Trump. The pleaded guilty, possibly sending him behind bars for life. Nikita Kassup, 18 years old, was trembling in his seat as he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. Again, out of Wisconsin. And that was for the murders of his stepfather, Donald Mayer, and his mother, Tatina Kassup, last year. When asked by Judge Ralph Ramirez whether he understood the ramifications of his guilty plea and if he had gunned down his mother and stepfather, he responded, "Yes, Your Honor." Prosecutors dropped 7 other charges against Kassup and a plea deal, including 2 counts of hiding a corpse and theft. Investigators believe Kassup shot his stepfather and mother at their home sometime around February 11th and lived with their bodies in the home for weeks. The teen then fled across the country in his stepfather's SUV after taking $14,000 in cash, jewelry, passports, his stepfather's gun, and the family dog, according to a criminal complaint. He was cuffed on February 28th during a traffic stop in Kansas. A federal search warrant revealed Kassup had written a manifesto calling for Trump's assassination and was in cahoots with others about his plan to kill the president and overthrow the U.S. government. Wow, lofty. Federal officials accused Kassup of plotting his parents' murders, buying drones and explosives, and sharing his plans with others, including a Russian speaker. The federal warrant said the killing of his parents appeared to be an effort to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary to carry out his plan. Detectives also discovered several disturbing messages on Kassup's cell phone from the month before his parents' murder, where the teen asked how long he would have to hide before he could be moved to Ukraine. An unknown individual speaking Russian responded to Kassup, but authorities did not reveal in the complaint what the person said. Kassup asked, "So while in Ukraine, I'll be living a normal life even if it's found out I did it?" Each homicide count carries a mandatory life prison sentence. though Ramirez could opt to make the killer eligible for parole after serving 20 years on each count behind bars. Again, heard that nowhere. He is slated to be sentenced on March 5th. We'll try to keep you updated on that. That was not, as far as I know, was not reported on, unless it was one of those stories we just happened to miss with so much going on. But we got to take a short break. A couple other breaking stories before we get into Minnesota, before we get into Venezuela. So stay with us. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We're going to have a fun Friday edition of Frankly Speaking. We've got a Climate Fact Friday Bob comment coming up a little bit later on. We're going to be talking with Joe Tobia, and most importantly, we're going to be reading your comments. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Number one, obviously, is safety. We definitely call 811 to find out if there are any buried lines, fiber optic, whether it be telephone or pipeline or anything. Don't take a chance. Don't think you know and say, well, I don't remember anything being put in there. Call 811 and make sure that that's identified, that there isn't something there before you make that crossing. Because in the end, we want everybody going home.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard him, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at Organ Donor.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. Ken writes in, have you heard if the American citizens being held in Venezuela are part of the political prisoner release? I have not, Ken. I did a quick research, like just very quick during the commercial break. They released a number of high-profile prisoners, including opposition politicians, in what its government is calling a gesture to seek peace. Tearful reunions unfolded yesterday night with newly freed detainees seen embracing loved ones in a video shared on social media. Among the first to be released was Enrique Marquez, a former presidential candidate, and Biago Pereira, a businessman and former Venezuelan lawmaker who was being held at a detention center facility, but no, I do not see anything about specifically United States or American prisoners being released. So thanks for the question, Ken. I wish I had more of an answer for you. I have a feeling no, not in this first wave. The reason I say that is I think that would be part of the headline. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. I see 12 Republicans went with Democrats to extend Obamacare for 3 years. And also some Republicans went with Democrats to stop any further attacks on Venezuela without Senate approval. Trump will veto. Yeah, it was, for lack of a better term, it wasn't a great day for Republican unity, meaning that there is definitely some going against Trump. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So thank you for bringing that up, Mark. But yes, it was Obamacare. It was Venezuela. Yeah, we'll talk about it here not that far into the future. We'll talk about it pretty soon. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Didn't hear that on mainstream media, did you? No, I did not. That's in reference to the young kid, the 18-year-old, who murdered his parents, his stepfather and his mother, to get funding so that he could assassinate the president and then take over the government. I had not heard about it. That's why I wanted to bring it to you. Oh, comment from Jack. He says, nice to see Watkins Glen highlighted. Yes, the most searched state park, according to Google. Jack predicts a new renaissance of reality coming as the Gen XYZ, etc., wakes up from the virtual AI clockwork orange technology nightmare in search of real tactile experiences instead of the pretend techno life. I'm not putting words in your mouth, Jack, or I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I read kind of to your point, and bear with me here, it's a stretch. I read at the Wall Street Journal today that 20-somethings are actually trading in their vapes, their e-cigarettes, for actual old-fashioned smoking. So, yeah, I guess getting rid of digital with the vapes and going analog with the old-fashioned cigarettes. So maybe there is a new kind of real reality. And I know that's not a positive thing. I'm just saying that it kind of goes to your point about tech and the pretend techno life. So thank you, Jack. Yesterday, it was reported federal prosecutors have launched a new probe into New York's Attorney General Letitia James involving campaign payments to her longtime hairdresser. Federal prosecutors have opened a probe connected to past campaign payments to her longtime hairdresser, who was indicted in Louisiana last month on bank fraud charges. Get this. Man, it's got to be good to be a politician. Investigators are looking into a total of $36,000 the James campaign paid, I'm going to try here, Aista Marsh, owner of a Brooklyn hair salon and an event manager, busy person, between May of 2018 and February of 2019. That's a lot of money for what, 10 months? It was during her successful re-election bid. Roughly $22,000 of the payments were for using Marsh's studio as a campaign office for the last 4 months of James' campaign. That's where you put your campaign office. People familiar with the probe told the New York Times, which first reported the new investigation, that prosecutors want to talk with Marsh about past financial transactions involving James and her campaign. The probe, which is in its early stages, according to the Times, comes as other efforts by the Department of Justice to secure an indictment against James for a separate mortgage fraud allegation failed to stick. So there we go. Federal prosecutors launching a new investigation into Letitia James. Yesterday, it was also announced that J.D. Vance announced it, I should say, that there's a new DOJ division. Assistant Attorney General is going to lead the national fraud investigation we've got a couple things here about J.D. Vance actually this morning. But he was at a press briefing. He said, we are creating a new Assistant Attorney General position who will have nationwide jurisdiction over the issue of fraud. That person's efforts will start and focus primarily in Minnesota, but it is going to be a nationwide effort because, unfortunately, the American people have been defrauded in a very nationwide way, and we're learning some about New York State this morning, which we'll get to later on. According to the fact sheet, the DOJ's new division for national fraud enforcement will enforce federal criminal and civil laws against fraud targeting federal government programs, federally funded benefits, business, nonprofits, and private citizens. The new Assistant Attorney General will lead investigations, and prosecutions, oversee interagency fraud initiatives, and advise top DOJ officials on policy reforms to address systemic abuse. Vance said, if you're a young parent struggling to afford childcare in the United States of America, there are programs that we have that make it easier for your kids to get into daycare, for your kids to get into preschool. Those programs should go to American citizens, not be defrauded by Somali immigrants and others who make it hard for you to get the access to the resources you need. But number two, making it easier for people who shouldn't even be in this country to fleece the United States and our taxpayers to begin with. We have actually activated a major interagency task force to make it possible to get to the heart of this fraud. We know that the fraud isn't just happening in Minneapolis. It's also happening in states like Ohio. It's happening in states like California, and we learned a little bit about New York a little bit later on. So Vance taking the center stage on the Somali fraud, also on the Minnesota ICE shooting, which we'll tell you what he had to say about that a little bit later on. He said, though, we have over 1,500 subpoenas the Department of Justice has issued to get to the heart of the fraud ring. We've done almost 100 indictments, mostly Somali immigrants, but also a few others. And of course, we're looking in with broad investigatory authority to a number of the instances of wrongdoing that we've seen in Minneapolis. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Trump also announced yesterday on Truth Social, we're going through a lot of breaking news. I am instructing my representatives to buy $200 billion in mortgage bonds. This will drive mortgage rates down, monthly payments down, and make the cost of owning a home more affordable. It's one of the many steps in restoring affordability, something that the Biden administration absolutely destroyed. We are bringing back the American dream that was destroyed by the last administration. Make America great again. He wrote that his decision during his first term in office not to sell the companies allowed them to amass $200 billion. Biden ignored the housing market, instead was immersed with high crime, open borders, runaway inflation, the Afghanistan disaster, and a military that he left in chaos and confusion. Everything was broke, but I, as President of the United States, have already fixed it. Okay, to Mark's point. Do we have time? No. To Mark's point, we're going to talk about the Obamacare subsidies when we return. Also, if you are just joining us, breaking late last night, Trump canceled a second wave of attacks on Venezuela due to their cooperation. He said the two nations are working well together, especially as it pertains to rebuilding in a much bigger, better, and more modern form their oil and gas infrastructure. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Oh no, I might have to restart the roof cam. Welcome back. We are broadcasting live and proudly, as always, from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So as Mark had pointed out, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill yesterday extending Obamacare subsidies for 3 years, upping the pressure on Senate Republicans to reconsider the legislation just months after Democrats forced a government shutdown on the issue. One of the problems is if the Senate considers it and it goes to a vote and it does pass, the Democrats will take the government shutdown as a victory. They'll be able to spin that message, so that's something to just keep in mind if this goes through. The House voted 230 to 196 to approve tens of billions of dollars in Affordable Care Act tax credits, with more than a dozen Republicans crossing party lines to join every Democrat. Now, we know the details of the Obamacare subsidies. I'm trying to see if they had a list here of the 12 or so. No, they don't. I thought they would. Republicans who switched on, not switched, but decided to vote with the Democrats on the Obamacare subsidies. We'll see. I'll try to get you that information. I don't like to do things on the fly, but we'll try to get you that information just out of curiosity. It was actually 17 Republicans. Wow. Boy, that's a big number. I'm not sure why they don't list them out in these articles, but that's where we're at. I'll try to find that for you at the next break. Also, the Senate advanced a measure to restrict Trump's power to use military force in Venezuela. That coming out yesterday as well. The Senate fired a warning shot at President Donald Trump, voting Thursday to advance a bipartisan resolution to block him from using military force within or against Venezuela unless he gets prior approval from Congress. The vote of 52 to 47 on the War Powers measure came as an unsuccessful plea by Republican leaders to sink it and preserve Trump's authority as he threatens a second wave, which we learned yesterday that Trump has canceled the second wave as of now because of their cooperation. Trump has declared that the U.S. would run the country temporarily after he ordered a military operation last week to capture and extradite leader Nicolas Maduro. So, again, I know I shouldn't be doing this live because I thought some place would just have a list of the Republicans that voted for it. Not that it matters. But according to this Venezuela bill, 5 Republicans joined all 47 Democrats in voting yes. The legislation, led by Tim Kaine, was co-sponsored by Senator Rand Paul, Senator Adam Schiff, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. So it was, as some had said, not necessarily... Oh, here we go. Along with Democrats and Rand Paul, who we mentioned, the Republicans who voted for the measure were Senators Susan Collins of Maine, no surprise, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, no surprise, Todd Young of Indiana, and Josh Hawley of Missouri. Trump slammed those 5 Republicans, saying Republicans should be ashamed of the senators that just voted with Democrats and attempting to take away our powers to fight and defend the United States of America. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, and Todd Young should never be elected to office again. This vote greatly hampers American self-defense and national security, impeding the president's authority as commander-in-chief. Now, Rand Paul said members of Congress want to shift the burden of initiating war to the president rather than to take responsibility. But make no mistake, bombing another nation's capital and removing their leader is an act of war, plain and simple. No provision in the Constitution provides such power to the president. So not necessarily a surprise by the people who did. Josh Hawley's a little surprised. He's been going a little bit, I'm going to say, kind of interesting lately. And finally, I found the list. Those 17 Republicans who voted for the Obamacare subsidies bill. Here we go. The GOP members voting yes on the bill, according to The Hill, include the original 9 Representatives Rob Bresnahan from Pennsylvania, Brian Fitzpatrick, Pennsylvania, Tom Keene Jr. of New Jersey, Nick LaLota of New York, Mike Lawler of New York, and this is what we talked about in the past about Lawler and being a moderate and why we didn't originally want him to run for governor necessarily, and we wanted Stefanik. Now Stefanik's dropped out. We know that whole list. Ryan McKenzie from Pennsylvania, Max Miller of Ohio, Maria Elvira Salazar, Florida, and David Valido of California. 8 more joined as of yesterday. Representative Mike Carey, Ohio, Monica De La Cruz, Texas, Andrew Garbarino, New Jersey, Jeff Hurd, Colorado, Dave Joyce, Ohio, Zach Nunn, Iowa, Derek Van Orden, Wisconsin, and Robert Whitman from Virginia. 4 of them, Fitzpatrick, Lawler, McKenzie, and Bresnahan, signed the discharge petition put forth by Democrats, which forced the vote in the first place. There you go. So the Washington Post puts it this way. Trump suffers a day of significant Republican defections on House and Senate votes. Showing this unyielding loyalty, according to the Washington Post, is starting to splinter. All right. Well, they'll start to use this, and I'm sure the Republicans that are voting with this are doing it for what they think is the best interest of their constituents, but what this also leads to is they'll start to scream, the media's been looking to do it from day one, lame duck. Because they, of course, are critical of this supposed loyalty to President Trump, and that everybody's scared of Trump, right? Wasn't that the argument many people even made on this program? And I say it's a weak argument because it pretends that there are Republicans that don't agree with President Trump. Their theory on the left is no one can agree with Donald Trump. So for Republicans to vote with him, it just means they're scared, they're terrified. I think it's a weak argument. I think it does a real disservice to really contemplating what's going on in Washington, because there are a lot of Republicans that support the MAGA agenda, of course. So this idea, but now doesn't this just throw their whole theory out? The Republicans have been doing this the whole time because they're terrified, they're scared. Well, then how do you explain the vote on the Obamacare subsidies, and how do you explain the vote on limiting the powers of the president when it comes to Venezuela and these sort of attacks? I don't know. I don't think you can. Further military action. I couldn't think of the word I wanted to use. Further military action in Venezuela. All right, we've got a couple international updates. We've got a lot to get to, I know, and we've got a busy morning. And then we're going to talk about Minnesota. We also have just a couple things. There's no way I can leave you in the lurch on it when in regards to New York. So we're going to try to pack in as much as we can. Keep these great comments and these questions coming in, and we'll be right back. As I mentioned, we have a Climate Fact Friday from Bob coming up a little bit later on. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine rentals, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Dear Winter, we're coming. Our squad of vehicles, with all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, is ready to take you on. Safety's the name of our game. Bundle up. Toyota.
Right now, you can lease Tacoma for just $259 a month or get 2.99% APR for a full 72 months on a new Tundra. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
Everyone has a community, a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups. Communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. It's not going to matter one bit if Congress passes the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Trump will simply veto it. Mike Johnson needs to step down. He has lost control of the House. Not that he ever had it. And then the viewer went on to say, the article I saw said it was only 9 Republicans that crossed. There was the original 9 that crossed, and then 8 more joined them on Thursday. That was the second part of that piece by The Hill. There was 8 more that joined them on Thursday yesterday. So there were 8 more on top of the probably the original article you read that was a little earlier in the day, is what I'm assuming. But to your point, it's not going to matter about the Affordable Care Act subsidies. It doesn't matter if Trump vetoes it. I understand your point. But why it matters is that the media is going to start to say lame duck, that he's lost his loyalty, that there's these splinters. They're already saying it. So it matters in that sense, but you're right. If Trump vetoes it, then it was all for naught. Ken writes in, with almost 400 federal judges in the U.S. that were appointed by Democrats, at least one of them will stop the Trump administration from prosecuting Letitia James. The Dems still owe her for stepping aside to let them install Hochul as their puppet governor in New York. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I don't think anything's going to go from it. Just reporting it as it crosses my desk. So protest is erupting in the Iranian capital after the exiled prince's call. Yes, the exiled crown prince called for mass demonstrations, which, by the way, saw internet access and telephone lines cut just as the protests and demonstrations got underway. The call from Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, whose terminally ill father fled Iran just before the country's 1979 Islamic Revolution, has escalated the nationwide protest over the Islamic Republic's ailing economy. Pahlavi said in a statement, "Great nation of Iran, the eyes of the world are upon you. Take to the streets as a unified front, shout your demands. I warn the Islamic Republic, its leader, and the Revolutionary Guard that the world and President Donald Trump are closely watching you." That's in reference to Trump's threat of military action in Iran if protesters are killed. Suppression of the people will not go unanswered. After that, around 8 p.m. local time, thousands of residents in Tehran started yelling "death to the dictator" and "death to the Islamic Republic." The demonstrators also called for return of the Shah, an act that would have resulted in the death sentence in the past. But just as the demonstrators started, the nation experienced a large-scale communications blackout. Both Cloudflare, an internet firm, and the advocacy group NetBlocks reported the internet outage and attributed the blackout to the Iranian government interference. Previous mass outages during protests have been followed by intense government crackdowns. At least 39 people have been killed thus far in the clash between the protesters and security, with more than 2,260 others detained. So Iran, the protests are escalating. The state is struggling to contain them. This is where it could start getting very bloody. Hopefully, after the capture of Maduro, that Iran will watch closely, that when President Trump, he doesn't hide his intentions. Much to the chagrin of many, he does not hide his intentions. And he said, if you are going to get basically bloody up your people, if you're going to kill your people, we will get involved. So hopefully they heed that warning. Time will tell. We'll learn more. But I have a feeling Iran's not used to keeping things clean and civil. So I have a bad feeling. Burn Iranian regime building down. Yes, they're really getting. And the digital blackout isn't going to help. It's only going to cause more chaos. Tonight, the people of Tehran have taken to the streets in response to the prince's million-strong call. It's not clear what had sparked the fire being Iranian buildings, government buildings, engulfed in fire. Okay. Do we have to take a short break already? No, we are good. Yeah, okay. Yep, that's why I sent it to you. I didn't hear about the other 8 until today. Yep, that makes sense. I didn't either. But I knew how they worded it in the Hill, that it was 9 originally, and then they said 8 others yesterday. So, yes. Okay, what's a program, especially a Friday program, without a Jasmine Crockett update? She has been very vocal lately. She is running for Senate in Texas. Most consider it. This is just a quick side tangent, but I have to bring up Jasmine Crockett. The former Saturday Night Live star, Bowen Yang, said that it would be a waste of money to support Representative Jasmine Crockett. Now, rest assured, Bowen Yang is not a Republican. On some podcast he was on, he criticized Gavin Newsom, calling out what he saw as self-centered politicians, including Jasmine Crockett. The host of the program, Matt Rogers, said, "Anytime a politician is making it too obviously about themselves, I'm already done. And don't waste your money sending to Jasmine Crockett. Do not do it." Yang said, "I must agree. Don't do it. You're going to waste your money. Take it from someone who sent Sarah Gideon a ton of money in Maine. Just don't do it. Don't waste your money. It's hard enough to come by." She's not going to win a Senate seat in Texas, you guys. Like if Beto O'Rourke couldn't do it, Jasmine Crockett is not going to do it. Fair point. yes, I think they raise an interesting point. When you can see a politician is all about themselves. Jasmine Crockett, we heard in that Atlantic piece, even on her cell phone, there's a picture of herself, her former staffers and current staffers anonymously saying that she's very egotistical. Same with Gavin Newsom. When the story is all about him, when the Atlantic does a glowing piece, what did I say? It was like 29 pages that I accidentally printed out earlier in the week. Glowing piece on when it's all me, it does become a little tedious. So that was just your one update. Don't waste your money, though I'm sure many of you were not going to. Did you see, this is going to be interesting, in a wide-ranging interview with the New York Times, President Trump was asked, is there any limit on your global power? Mr. Trump said, yeah, there is one thing, my own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop me. I don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt people. Ooh, I'm sure that will start making the rounds very soon. Okay, when we come back, we are going to talk about Minnesota. I do have, and by the way, we've covered a lot, so feel free to weigh in on any of the topics that we've discussed so far. We're going to talk about ICE. Like I said, New York has a couple things that we have to get to this morning. If you are just joining us, it is being reported last night on Truth Social. Trump said that he canceled a second wave of attacks on Venezuela due to their cooperation. That broke just a few hours ago. He said because the two nations are working well together, especially as it pertains to rebuilding in a much bigger, better, and more modern form their oil and gas infrastructure. Okay, stay with us. We will be right back. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Did I have an announcement? Yes, I know, I'm sorry. I do have 1 second, and I sometimes run out of time to promote some events locally. We are going to hear from Joe Tobia, Steuben County legislator, but he's in this morning for the Courting Painted Post Sports Hall of Fame. But I wanted to, there it is. I wanted to remind you that tonight, we talked about it yesterday on the program, tonight is the St. Baldrick's Green Out. The rivals, Corning Hawks, take on the Horseheads Blue Raiders. Kickoff 5:30 for JV, varsity right around 7:15. There's those fun activities during halftime where you can shoot a half-court shot and potentially win a $150 Amazon gift card. In the JV game during halftime, elementary principals and elementary school kids will face each other in a basketball game, is the way I understand it. A quick basketball or shoot-off competition. Make sure you wear your green, bring your team spirit. So help the St. Baldrick's Foundation. I knew I wanted to get that in because we appreciate Amy being on the program yesterday. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. A couple of comments from viewers. Exactly. All they did, this meaning the Republicans who voted for the Obamacare subsidies, all they did was feed the media frenzy. The media will continue to hammer that the Affordable Care Act subsidies were even supported by some Republicans. Exactly. They become a useful tool in the media's war chest to be able to basically criticize Trump and other Republicans. You're exactly right. Comment from a viewer. Trump said newly released figures show the United States has recorded its lowest trade deficit since 2009, with the figure continuing to decline. He also claimed GDP growth is projected to exceed 5%, even after what he said was a 1.5% loss caused by the Democrat shutdown, crediting tariffs for strengthening the economy and national security. And to your point, it's funny because all the media experts are stunned and shocked. The U.S. trade deficit calculated as import minus exports unexpectedly. You notice whenever the economy has good news under a Republican president, which is most of the time, it's always unexpected. Unexpectedly shrank by 39% last October from the prior month. Economists are surprised, again, unexpectedly surprised. Those are the experts that tell us that tariffs aren't going to work. Those are the experts that tell us Republican policies are never going to work, and they're always wrong. Remember that when you hear about the expert economists. But economists were surprised to see the deficit fall to $29.4 billion, the lowest reading since 2009, as exports rose 2.6% and imports fell 3.2%, which will bolster the GDP for the fourth quarter. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate that. Okay. Yesterday, federal agents shot two in Portland as a driver weaponized the vehicle. Details were scant, but city officials announced that the police responded to a report of gunshots in southeast Portland at 2:18 p.m. Pacific time. Officers were told a man had been shot and was requesting help. The police found a man and woman with gunshot wounds. The exact circumstances of the shooting remain unknown, but Mayor Keith Wilson said two were shot and injured by federal agents. So little is known about this. According to a statement from Homeland Security, the shooting occurred while two U.S. border agents were conducting a targeted vehicle stop in Portland, Oregon. The passenger of the vehicle and target is a Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with the transnational Tren de Aragua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland. The vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. When agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents. Fearing for his life and safety, an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger fleeing the scene. This situation is evolving and more information is forthcoming. City leaders have urged for calm, and this is after Minneapolis. Senator Jeff Merkley said, please keep protests peaceful. Trump wants to generate riots. Don't take the bait. Portland Police Chief Bob Day said, we understand the heightened emotion and tension many are feeling, but I'm asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more. This is how they present it now. Democrat Representative Janelle Benham said, well, we know that their presence is not welcome, meaning ICE agents. And the way that they're attempting to do law enforcement, we don't believe that's law enforcement. We believe it's state-sponsored terrorism. So ICE is now state-sponsored terrorism. My staff has shared with me that there was an interaction. This is about Portland now. There were two people involved. There was a gunshot, at least one gunshot fired. The people from the original site of the firing drove to another site and are being treated at a local hospital. We recently learned that there was a report of gunshot wounds to the chest, but they have not confirmed that. And of course, more information is forthcoming. We also know that there's been a heightened sense of concern because we've gotten reports that ICE or Border Patrol has been impersonating or appearing to impersonate utility workers. And so we've just received notification on that as well. So there's a heightened sense in the community that these people are out there, that they're goonish, and they're willing to stop at nothing to terrorize people. What I want to make sure that everybody understands is that they are unwelcomed in Portland. So we don't know the details of the shooting, but what she does know is that the Border Patrol agents are state-sponsored terrorism. Jen Psaki, the host of The Briefing on MSN Now, had a similar statement. Speaking with Governor Josh Shapiro, who we talked about quite a bit yesterday, he announced his re-election campaign for governor of Pennsylvania, but many people believe this is almost a stepping stone to a presidential run. Psaki said, I just want to start with the horrifying news out of Minneapolis, where, of course, an ICE agent killed a 37-year-old woman. And we just learned tonight, and I should note for viewers, we've been watching the press conference. There's not really, we will keep you updated on anything new that happens there. Not a lot of details, we know, but there were two people shot in Portland, Oregon as well. Point is, this could happen in really any city. So don't know much about Portland, but know it could happen in any city. Now on Minneapolis, we'll got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. Stay with us.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
An act can turn your life upside down in an instant. Pain, medical bills, time off work, it's overwhelming. And when you look to the insurance company for help, they don't see you. They don't see your family or what you've lost. To them, you're just a number, just dollars on a spreadsheet. Their job is to pay you as little as possible. At WYDC Injury Law, we see the person behind the claim. We fight for your recovery, your future, and your peace of mind. If you've been hurt in New York, call 607-500-HURT.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Yes, Ken, I read your statement, but I'm going to read it again. It was that good. With almost 400 federal judges in the U.S. that were appointed by Democrats, at least one of them will stop the Trump administration from prosecuting Letitia James. The Democrats still owe her for stepping aside to let them install Hochul as their puppet governor in New York. Thank you, Ken. Comment from a different viewer. Jasmine Crockett was just crying that the Supreme Court ruined her political career. Yes, it's with the redistricting. And it was more than just crying. I think you'll agree. You can't even quote her half the time. There's so much cussing. But yes, she was not overly happy with the Supreme Court. But this viewer continues, she knows that she's finished. I got a better chance of winning a Texas Senate seat than she does. I would agree. I would totally agree. It's that delusion of grandeur. She likes that kind of superstar attitude that she thinks she has, that she's getting all this attention. Whatever. We'll keep following her and we'll keep quoting her. If they want her to be the rising star of the Democrat Party, I say, I'm all for it. Comment from a different viewer. I am back from a month-long tour of the South. Well, welcome back. Totally amazed at construction taking place from manufacturing to housing. The southern red states are set to run the economy in the next few years. Yeah, who was it? Texas's governor? Not governor. I can't remember who it was. We brought up the other day that said pretty much that Texas is going to be the new Wall Street, that so many people are moving now that Mamdani's in New York City, that they're going to take that over. Now we learn, and I'm not going to give you too much information here, but they have doxed, meaning releasing the information of the ICE agents involved in the shooting of Renee Nicole Good. They've given names, photos. Now, this is passing as reporting in the United Kingdom, but what we know it really is doxing, trying to put fear in the hearts of those officers and of other ICE officers who say, well, maybe I will quit. Maybe I won't do my job as effectively because I don't want my life ruined. I don't want my family's life ruined. And that's unfortunately the tactic of the left. They've been doing it for quite some time, doxing. Governor Walz announced that Friday, today, will be marked as a day of unity and requested that people take a moment of silence statewide near the 48-hour mark of when Renee Nicole Good was gunned down. Walz ordered a moment of silence at 10 a.m. Friday to remember Renee Good and all that's good and right about this nation. So that is today. Walz requested that employers give their people some space during the moment of silence and implored others to show the goodness through charitable deeds like shoveling their neighbor's walk. He called for Minnesota authorities to carry out this investigation into Good's death and for officials to pull back this unnecessary search. He also reminded the public to maintain peace. We're not going to go quietly. We're not going to give up on all these things that matter to us. And chief among those is human dignity, respect, rule of law, and all the things that we know make this country great. We're going to talk more about that. Governor Hochul, of course, weighing in. And to kick off the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to hear from Climate Fact Friday Bob. If you are just joining us, Trump canceled the second wave of attacks on Venezuela due to Venezuela's cooperation. That was announced late last night. Stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number 2. Where did hour number 1 go? My goodness, think of how much we covered. Where else do you get this much information in just one quick hour? So I thank you for all the comments. Keep them coming in, all the waves that are coming in. And we will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. Hour number 2 coming up.
Every day in January is New Year's Day at Cutler's. Stop in and receive phenomenal savings as our rock bottom prices will be available for the whole month. We have pallets of 6, 12, and 20 mil LVT in stock starting at $1.99 per square foot. Up to 50% off on all in-stock carpet and LVT. Take 10% off our already low prices for all special orders. Bring in your measurements or we can measure for you. Hurry in for the best selection as these are the lowest prices of the year. Cutler's Carpet and Flooring, we have a buddy in the flooring business.
Sometimes, one moment changes everything. When a wish is granted, a child with a critical illness replaces fear with confidence, sadness with joy, and anxiety with hope. You can transform lives one wish at a time. Support Make-A-Wish and help grant more life-changing wishes. Learn more at wish.org.
You make everything harder.
You're a pest.
Nobody wants you, nobody likes you.
You are just full of raising questions and never having an answer.
If I can face MS, I can face anything.
A cure for me would be to go back to where I was.
A cure would stop you dead in your tracks.
And when we get you, it's going to be a great day.
It ends here.
MS ends with us.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox coming up this hour. We'll be talking with Joe Toby about the Corning Painted Post Sports Hall of Fame. As I mentioned, this will be my last time mentioning it because we've been talking about it all morning. But breaking this morning, Trump has canceled the second wave of attacks on Venezuela due to their cooperation in, quote, seeking peace. This is a very important and smart gesture in relations to releasing political prisoners. Okay, let's go to some viewer comments. And after these viewer comments, we have a Climate Fact Friday Bob comment. And Jasmine Crockett is supposed to be highly educated. Yeah, I think she's a lawyer, right? I mean, I know she likes to swear. Another comment, let's not forget this, that the girl that was shot was blocking ICE agents in that area. At one point, went to another area, and then returned to that area to do it again. Allegedly, they have her on tape. I have not heard that. That's not simply trying to get away when she drove 350 miles to get there to do this. She was there to start trouble, not just taking a cruise through the neighborhood. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, the Democrats know that they can't stop Trump from working in the best interests of the country. Their focus is to propagandize the sheeple into believing that Trump has gone rogue and doesn't care about the American people. Yes, they're pushing that a lot. What happened to America first? He's invading internationally and mental health is gone. At least you're exactly right, Ken. They're not giving information. They're not giving the facts. They are, as you said, propagandizing the sheeple into believing that Trump has gone rogue and doesn't care about the American people. And unfortunately, some feckless Republicans have joined them. So the Democrats can say it was a nonpartisan bill. Absolutely. Whether it's about Venezuela, whether it's about the Obamacare subsidies, they played right into specifically the media's hands. Because as we've been saying all morning, the media will say, well, this is bipartisan. Republicans wanted it, and yet Trump vetoed it, or whatever the case may be. I think the Obamacare subsidies, it doesn't sound like that's going to pass in the Senate, but it sounds like Venezuela. Either way, they're most likely going to be vetoed. So yes, they played right into the hands of the media and the Democrats. Comment from a different viewer. Mark said, I see Hochul is giving the State of the State speech on January 13th at 1 p.m. More idiotic proposals from an incompetent governor. Thank you, Mark. Yes, his hat already coming up on January 13th. Well, I know we're going to be talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on the 16th. How appropriate. We'll be talking to him Friday. So that's next Friday. Friday's with Phil, so we'll get the whole scoop from him. All right, Climate Fact Friday. Bob says, good morning, all. Well, good morning, Bob. So earlier in the week, we hear the left screaming about Trump just taking all the oil in Venezuela. Up to this point, the regime in Venezuela under Maduro were getting all the profits from the oil, and the countries that were benefiting from it, Russia, Iran, and China. These countries were setting in Venezuela to establish military and global dominance. Building about 1 gigawatts of solar and wind power takes around 18.5 tons of silver, 3,400 tons of polysilicon. I should have read this before, Bob. And more than 10,000 tons of aluminum. To produce the aluminum alone, it takes thousands of tons of coal, charcoal, and coke. To refine the silver requires roughly 4,600 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 400 homes for a year. My point is that it requires a lot of fossil fuels and mining of precious metals to produce renewable solar and wind power. Another present time, the rate of mining and drilling will do this now. It would take... I'm confused by this one. The rate of mining and drilling it would take 1,000 years to produce enough of this material to be totally wind and solar powered. Everyone enjoy the weekend and go Bills. Thank you, Mark. I looked at Mark's quote there. Climate Fact Friday, Bob. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Governor Hochul, speaking of which, wants recourse when ICE agents act improperly. Let's start holding these people accountable, she told Morning Joe. New Yorkers who had their constitutional rights violated because of an ICE agent, whether you're a member of the media who was beaten up or someone whose business has been ransacked because the ICE agents come in and make them lose money, or someone whose mother is murdered, they would have recourse against these individuals. Wow, she went to some extremes. Isn't it? Is that a common theme? Does that happen a lot? Whether you're a member of the media who was beaten up, or your business was ramshackled because the ICE agents come in. So by ramshackled, she means ICE agents come in and then people are avoiding that business because they're maybe illegal immigrants and they don't want to be arrested. Or a mother is murdered. That's about Nicole Good. I understand that. But now, Kristi Noem was actually in New York City. And she said, if you lay a finger on one of our officers, we will catch you, we will prosecute you, and you will feel the full extent of the law. Hochul responding, saying, I'm so sickened as a mom that there's a child that woke up yesterday, a 6-year-old, who had a loving mother and goes to bed an orphan. I'll tell you, I'm going to defend rights, at least in New York. Now, speaking of New York, protests greeted Kristi Noem on her visit to New York, which, no surprise, there's been a lot of these pop-up protests. We talked about it yesterday on the program. She came to New York City to announce the completion of Operation Salvo. The covert operation run out of New York field office targeted 54 people said to be associated with the Dominican Trenteros gang. Well, and we're not going to go through all that. But yes, there was protests, of course. Now in Minneapolis, mutual distrust has derailed plans for a joint FBI and state criminal investigation. Now, some are presenting this as the feds are taking over and don't want Minneapolis involved. There is a mistrust. There was already glaring contradictions with what we saw with our own eyes and what the Minneapolis police were saying. But mutual distrust between federal and state authorities derailed plans for a joint FBI and state criminal investigation into the shooting of a Minneapolis woman by an ICE officer, leading to the highly unusual move by the Justice Department to block state investigators from participating in the probe. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said Thursday that after initial agreement for the FBI to work with a state agency, as well as prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office to investigate the shooting, federal authorities reversed course and the FBI blocked the BCA from participating in the investigation. Now, Minnesota officials have lambasted ICE as reckless, calling comments defending the officers who fired the shots as, we'll say, baloney, and calling the deployment of ICE in Minnesota a threat to the endurance of our republic. Governor Tim Walz, not running for re-election in the middle of this fraud scandal, and as we predicted, which is a very easy prediction. I'm not patting myself on the back, that this story is going to be used by the media, this shooting is going to be used by the media to go back to not reporting on the fraud in Minneapolis. And we've seen that in real time already. They never wanted to report on it in the first place. So this was the excuse that they needed to focus on anything else in Minneapolis or Minnesota, I should say, than the fraud. But speaking of the fraud, Governor Tim Walz is demanding that his deputies be allowed back into the investigation. I just want to make clear as possible to everyone, Minnesota must be part of this investigation. Okay, well, he made that clear. That was pretty much it. But White House officials are showing their distrust of Walz, saying, I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear either that he knew about this fraud in Minneapolis, he knew about welfare fraud, or at the very least, he looked the other way, Vance said on Thursday. Adam Schiff, boy, he's been kind of quiet lately, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't like being out of the spotlight. He was on CBS's The Takeout. I've never heard of it. He said, well, Adam Schiff, senator from California, Democrat, as you know. Well, I was struck by a few things. First of all, it's horrifying to watch. And to think about this 37-year-old woman drops her kids off at school, not involved in protest activity or anything, seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But at one point, she's waving other cars to come past, trying to make sure that she's not in the way. This is typical Adam Schiff changing the narrative. I haven't heard anybody reporting it like this. Although she's been pulled over. And then you see her trying to turn away from those officers and the shots fired into the car. The wheels of the car pointed not towards the agent, but away from the agent. That's what leaps out to me from that video. Now there needs to be a full investigation, but that full investigation needs to have at the table, with access to witnesses and evidence, the Minnesota law enforcement authorities as well. This cannot just be Kash Patel designating FBI agents that he wants to reach a certain conclusion, or Kristi Noem doing the same. Neither of those people can be trusted to run a fair investigation. So Minnesota has a right, and I think the public has a need for credibility and independent investigators to be looking at this. Whatever you think about what he's saying, that Noem and Patel can't be trusted with a fair investigation, have you heard it? And I'm not, listen, I think it's a tragedy. I think it's sad. I'm not saying that. But that Good was just dropping off her kids and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her wife was screaming into the camera that, this is my fault. I brought her to this. So this is typical Adam Schiff, just lying about the facts and knowing he's never going to be called on it, especially by CBS. CBS just lets him get away with it. What was interesting is Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN host, he gets pretty political, and I would argue that most of the time probably don't agree, but every once in a while he does come out, and it's kind of surprising that he takes the stance that he does. He said, I saw the video on numerous occasions, and seeing what transpired from a lawful perspective as it pertains to a law enforcement official, don't expect him to be prosecuted. He was completely justified. He was justified. From a humanitarian perspective, however, why did you have to do that? If you could move out of the way, that means you could have shot the tires. That means you could have got a few feet away after you shot the tires. And if you were unsuccessful in doing that, you could have got her down the road. You didn't have to do that. She wasn't driving down the road coming at you 90 miles an hour. She was parked in the middle of the street, and rather than get out of the car, she wrongfully tried to drive off and wrongfully disregarded a law enforcement official, which is exactly what ICE is. And as a result, lost her life because of it. Now, J.D. Vance, well, let me bring up what J.D. Vance had to say in the next segment. And after that next segment, we are going to talk with Joe Tobia, Steuben County legislator, but he's not here to talk about legislature issues. He's here to talk about the Corning Painted Post Sports Hall of Fame. Learn all about it right around 7:20. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
William Mattar has been a great brother, but I was surprised to learn how many people knew he was my brother.
William Mattar's on this?
Oh, brother.
Because when Big Insurance finds out that he's on a car crash case...
So who's on this?
They hired William Mattar.
Oh, brother.
Word travels fast.
You know, they got Mattar on this.
Mattar? Oh, brother.
Hurt in a car? Call my brother, William Mattar. 444-4444.
Time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
Looking for a pre-owned vehicle you can trust? Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has over 2,000 quality pre-owned vehicles ready for you. Cars, trucks, SUVs, every make, every model, every budget. All inspected, reconditioned, and backed by a team that puts your peace of mind first. After the sale, using the latest technology, our certified technicians deliver dependable, honest service you can trust. Over 2,000 pre-owned vehicles, 18 locations. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. We're taking
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Yes, Jasmine Crockett is a lawyer, supposedly one of those other Howard Law School graduates paid for by George Soros. I did not. I knew she was a lawyer. I didn't know where she went to school. Hochul so stupid she didn't even mention the other two kids the girl had. Yeah, that's another good point there. Thank you. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I just want to thank Climate Fact Friday Bob. He is always interesting and informative. Have a great weekend and go Bills. Hey, look what you started there. Climate Fact Friday Bob. I appreciate it. Ken writes in, I think Trump needs someone to read his tweets and press releases before he presses send. Saying that he stopped the second wave of attacks on Venezuela plays into the left's hands regarding the War Powers Act. Venezuela wasn't attacked. We forcefully extradited a criminal from this country, from the country. I assume that what Trump stopped was another how do you say that? Extradition, maybe, of another one of the criminals with a U.S. warrant on their head. Extraction of another criminal. One of the criminals with a U.S. warrant on their head. Could be. Yeah, I agree. I think that's been a decade now of wondering sometimes if he could get someone to just read it once, do a once-over before hitting send. Now, J.D. Vance said during a press conference, he said the head of Minnesota's investigative agency says... Oh, this is the reporter. The head of Minnesota's investigative agency says the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigation agency's access to the investigation. Wow. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access to evidence to work on this investigation? J.D. Vance said, the precedent is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. He is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. And to Vance's point, they're already doxing them as we had predicted. They're already releasing their information, some in the media in the United Kingdom, for that very reason, to try to destroy this person's life. But I'll continue. J.D. Vance said the unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can now actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I would like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue that they are encouraging people. Many have also officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous and has to stop. He also said that he is certain that anti-deportation activist Renee Good violated the law, and that she was a part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our officers to do the job. And that's one of the reasons, and I know it receives a lot of criticism, especially from the left and the media, but the wearing of masks by these agents, and it's not for some intimidation factor. It's for the fact that these people, these protesters, are looking to dox them, to try to destroy their lives, their names, their addresses, their families' names, kids' schools. These type of things have all been released on the internet. That is why they try to cover their identity. So this is a typical, especially when you talk about the far left protesters, this is kind of a typical thing that is done with the doxing, and of course it's happened already. He said, if the media wants to tell the truth, this is J.D. Vance, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques, to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration law. We're not going to give into terrorism on this. This is classic terrorism, and we cannot say that when a far-left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials that we're no longer going to enforce the law. And that was somewhat the tactic during the not during the Obama years, during the Biden years, where it was certain crimes were ignored. We've heard about when criminals are basically breaking into certain places, look the other way. When there's destruction and rioting in the street, Tim Walz, remember, ignore it. That was a common tactic during the Biden years. Even allowing, remember, the protests on George Floyd to happen, these big public gatherings at a time when we were told we couldn't leave our house because of COVID, but that was allowed. So it was kind of an MO for the Biden administration, and J.D. Vance is saying that era is over. We're not going to give in to terrorism on this. That we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officers that they are no longer going to enforce the law. And I think he raises a very fair point on that. He also said, J.D. Vance said, look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. I don't care what Tim Walz has to say. In response to a reporter's question, the vice president said that Good, who was shot while accelerating her car, may not have intended to harm the man. Look, I don't know what is in the person's heart or in the person's head, and obviously we're not going to get the chance to ask this woman what was going on. What I am certain of is that she violated the law. What I am certain of is that the officer had every reason to think that he was under very serious threat or injury, or in fact his life. What I'm certain of is that she accelerated in a way where she ran into this guy. I don't know what was in her heart and what was in her head, but I know that she violated the law, and I know that officers were acting in self-defense. He referred to the shooting as a tragedy of Good's own making. Quote, I'm not happy that this woman lost her life, he said. The officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. Now, Kristi Noem saying yesterday that she would like to send more ICE agents into Minneapolis. We've got thousands of officers there, and I'm not supposed to, or I am not opposed to sending more. Secretary Noem's comments obviously making the far left media rounds. All right, we got to take a break. Wow, we'll read our comments when we come back because I'm running late. We've got Joe Tobia coming up next. Keep your comments coming in. We've got a little bit more about Minnesota. We've got some things here about New York. We're not going to have a lot of time to get there, so make sure that you get all of your comments in while you can, because we are, I can tell already, we're going to have a fun time talking with Joe Tobia, as we always do. He's been on for various reasons. We always have a fun time talking with him, so I have a feeling that's going to last a little bit long. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, what break is this? Are we already? Wow, this is going quick.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world. sober, you drive.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and it's time to talk about the 50th, this is unbelievable, induction ceremony for the Corning Painted Post Sports Hall of Fame. 50 years?
50 years. The first induction ceremony began in 1975.
Wow. Well, you can tell there's been a lot because the program, when you go, is like a book.
Yeah.
I brought mine home, the last one I went to, and you could spend a half an afternoon reading that.
Yeah, that's right. We
Isn't
get
that
a lot,
great?
and we get a lot of support from the businesses here, and we have so much support from the community. It's really nice, and that's what keeps us going, and it gives us a chance, Frank, to honor some of the people here in the community that have been involved in athletics, and whether they're players or contributors, we try to pick out those people that are above and beyond the norm, I guess, and what they've done to help sports in our community. So 50 years, we're excited. It's a special year for us.
When I want to hear all about the nominating process and all that, but how did you get involved and get started with the Corning Painted Post Sports Hall of Fame?
How did I personally get involved?
Yeah.
I was elected and inducted into the Hall of Fame back in 2002.
Okay.
So that kind of was the beginning. You
Is
show
that how
up.
they get you in?
Yeah, and back then it was at the Holiday Inn, and that was a tough venue because it was so small and you packed in so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And since then we've moved to CMOG, Corning Museum of Glass
It's a great location.
Auditorium. It's fantastic. CMOG takes good care of us, and they really do help us out. So we have the venue there now, and when we moved there, I just kind of got talking to some people. They needed some directors. I said, I'll give it a shot. And once I got on, back then Sandy Osmo was president.
Okay.
And I got on it, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was a good bunch of people. We run a very good event. It's a lot of work. People don't realize that we meet every month, and we're collecting nominations. We're looking at nominations. We have to have our induction meeting and all that stuff, or nominating meeting, I should say. And I just kind of, Sandy Osmo left. Rich Fiacco came on. Okay. Rich is a fantastic president. Great leader, and that's one of the reasons I stayed on. I just really enjoy working under Rich and some of the other people. Larry French, he's been on the board forever, and ever.
He'll never leave.
He's like the grandfather on the board. You got any questions?
He knows.
You can go to Larry, you can go to Rich, and you get some good answers. So.
And you can just tell it's such a special event because how honored when they stand up and give their speeches, and their family and friends are there.
Yeah.
And it really blew me away when I went. Dennis Sweeney, our good friend Dennis Sweeney, was being inducted, and I just thought, what a special thing for the community, for Corning Painted Post. Maybe people that haven't played in quite a few years. Some of the people,
right.
and they're recognized for something that could have been one of the highlights of their life. I think it's amazing.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people are very proud to be inducted, and we like that because we do make it a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw the event, at CMOG, and we have the big board behind us with all the attributes that these people did during their athletic career. They come from, I was telling you about one specific inductee from last year, Joey Rossetti. He came from California.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we get them, they come in and they spend time with the family, and they go through the induction, and it's just a great little commitment that we try to give the community.
I do, and people look forward to it every year. And it's really every sport. Doing research, people can go to the website on the bottom of the screen. I was looking at, because I'm a big boxing fan, so boxers got in. I saw an ultimate frisbee, skiing, skeet shooting. It's got everything.
Yeah, it's got everything. NASCAR racing, everything. Yeah, we do, and we have a special category. So if something comes along and it doesn't fit in one of them, and we feel they're inductee. They should be inducted. We'll put them in that special category. We've had to do that a couple times. One with the frisbee. So,
yeah. I thought that was great. So how's the plan going this year to celebrate 50th? I mean, this is a big deal.
Good. We have a 2-night, a weekend induction ceremony.
Okay.
Friday, I think it's March 13th. We're at the VFW.
I know it's the 13th, yeah.
And it starts at 6 o'clock. And what's nice about that one is the community is invited, and it's all free. The Woodhouse Stadium Grill provides food. Come on over.
That's great.
You can talk to some of the inductees and their families and have a drink and eat. It's a real, just nice social night. Event. Last year was my first time I went to the Friday night event.
Yeah, because that's relatively new, right?
It's relatively new, about 3-4 years old.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It really gave you a chance to kind of walk around, congratulate the inductees, and talk to the families. And then Saturday's the main event, and that's at CMOG. Those tickets are $25. And that starts at 1 o'clock. We have a little buffet lunch, and then we have the ceremony. It's a lot shorter than the one you went to, which is kind of nice. But this year we're inducting 10 people into the hall, and we're very excited. It's a great class, very good class.
When do you make that announcement?
It's already been made.
Oh, has it? Okay.
Yeah, it was actually in the newspaper too.
Oh, I missed it.
Leader does a good job of covering for us.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, we have 3 coming in for lacrosse.
Okay.
And that's Jake Tuller, Andy Warner, Carter Bloor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I've seen all 3 of them play, and they're well worthy of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Football, Alex Danes, Pella McClellan.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of running backs can thank those 2 for the job they've done. Baseball is Nate Grant, John Robinson. Okay, both West High boys who did a great job up there, went to college and played. Bowling is Anita Genosa.
Okay.
Very good bowler. Track and field is Chris Davis and Madeline Ustanik. I hope I said that right. And that's track and field. So we've got a great class.
Do you find it difficult because how's the process work? Someone nominates?
Yeah, anybody can nominate anyone they want. You can actually go to our website.
I saw that.
Nomination forms there. The nomination form we have right now on the website, you have to submit it through the website. Okay. We're going to try to put a hard copy on there you could print out. So if you want to take your time with the nomination and gather a lot of information, we're in the process of changing that. But anyone can nominate. We need nomination forms no later than October 31st.
Okay.
And that gives us time to look at each of the resumes and the nominations. They go to the subcommittees. Okay. And if the subcommittees, they decide who's going to go up for voting. Oh, okay. For example, this past year I believe I had 6. I'm the head of the lacrosse committee. Yeah. Myself and Lisa Illig both are in charge of the lacrosse committee. And we had 5 or 6 nominations. Well, we can't bring up all 5 or 6. So the 3 that we brought up just stood out. They stood out like a sore thumb. we didn't have a choice. We said we got to put these 3 up.
If you had a ballpark average, how many nominations do you think you get in a year?
Oh, probably. Well, I'll give you this year. This year we were inducting 10. We probably had close to 20 nominations.
Oh, wow. So it's got to be kind of a lengthy process to weed it down.
And it's tough because there's some that are really good and wow, you can't put them all up.
No.
And so it becomes kind of tricky. So.
Yeah, and you said someone can go and nominate someone right on the website, and you said that soon they'll have a hard copy. How do you, I don't want to say break the news, that sounds bad, but how do you let the honorees know? Do you call them?
No, we usually send out a letter. Okay. Larry French is in charge of that.
Yeah.
So we have our nominating meeting early in December. Okay. And once we have selected the inductees, Larry sends a letter out to all the inductees with the information and how to buy the tickets and what to do to, any questions you can call this person, that person. So that's how they get to know. And then we let the leader know, and they always do a great story for us, always.
Yeah, there's always been great coverage of it. That's just wonderful. And like I said, I like the idea of 2 nights because, and we were talking about it off the air, I know when I went, Dennis and I got to talk, but there was a lot of other people that I knew in that crowd, and
you can't get to them.
You can't.
That's right.
Because you didn't want to interrupt someone's speech.
That's right.
So I think moving to 2 nights was a great idea. And as I said, you got to get the program because you'll end up. I still have mine. I'm still reading it. It takes me that long to read. Yeah. But how long does it take to put the program together, actually? He must copy and paste from year to year because there is everybody that's ever been in there.
Yeah. We got all the, the program says it all. It's got a history. Yeah. It's got the history of the Sports Hall of Fame. We've got all the inductees in here. And every year they got inducted and what sports or what categories they were inducted for. And there's a lot of good stuff. We have the program in here, and we have special awards we hand out.
I was just going to ask you about that.
And that's important because I think we want to recognize not just people who have graduated, but current students in our high schools. For example, the Bacalus Award started in 1985, and to me, it's one of the most prestigious high school awards we can give because coaches have to nominate certain players, and it's based on a wide range of character, grades, discipline, dedication, service to the community. There's a wide range of criteria that they have to fit. And then all the coaches come together and they fight for their own. And it's good. I mean, they argue for their individual nominee.
I like that.
Yeah, it's really good. So it's a very prestigious award. We also give, I don't know if you ever knew Bob Thompson, Twas.
The name, yeah.
Yeah, Bob was a great guy, just a great guy. He was a board of director for many years. I coached with Bob for many years, football, Howard East. Died suddenly about 6-7 years ago. And we decided to do a memorial award, again, to 2 high school students that personify the attitude, the right attitudes. The Frankie Acombs, you were such a respected player. When you were at West, you were. And I was there as assistant principal, and I remember people, thought very highly of you.
Oh, thank you.
And you're the kind of person that kind of fits that mold, someone who's willing to go to practice every day, work hard, and just do everything they can for their, for their teammates.
That's great.
So, and then we have the Frank Watts Memorial, and that's given to a longtime supporter of the Hall of Fame. A lot of times it'll go to one of our advertisers.
Sure.
Bob Box Directors Award, significant contributions to the Hall of Fame. We give that out to somebody. So there are some awards we like to give out to,
And I know we don't even have time to read it, but you mentioned the sponsors. Boy, the community gets
we
behind
got
this.
tons. We got tons.
I mean, I don't know. We could fill the whole. I mean, even looking at the program, and how great is that? Because they realize the importance of the Hall of Fame to our community, and they want. I'm sure they're contacting you. They want to be a part of it.
They do, and we got them, and we emphasize at the ceremony. Take a look at the sponsors, please. Stop by.
Thank them.
Give them some. Thank them. They pretty much stir the straw. They're the straw that stirs the drink. I guess that's the way to put it. They keep us going. So, and we're so appreciated to everybody. But Corning's, you're a Corning boy. It's a pretty nice little community.
Tight-knit community,
here.
And that's why it's such an honor to be recognized by your community. So people may not realize this, and I'm kind of new to this. I know you're trying to get the word out a little bit more about the Corning Paint Post Hall of Fame. I love that they finally have a sign out front to tell people I think it's Baron Stuben is what we always called it.
Yes.
So that you can go in and see that.
Finally.
I know.
We just got that reopened.
Yeah.
And I fought for that for a couple years. When the Baron Stuben building was up for sale, they kind of closed everything. And I understand that.
Okay, yeah.
All right, it's up for sale. But then they decided not to sell it.
Yeah.
So I went in and said, "Well, can we
open the hall out?"
Everything's in there. If you walk in, it's right next to the what do you call it? The
Old World Cafe. Right?
Thank you.
Yes.
And it's right next door to that. We have all our plaques, and we've got some stuff from our inductees that date back to the 40s and 50s. I mean, we got some nice display cases in there. And we finally got it open with the help of some people over in CMOG. They worked hard for us.
Oh, that's nice.
So we went out and bought a sign, and
I love that.
Right next door is Eisenway, I think. It's
I'm not sure.
She sells.
Oh yes. With the sage and herbs and stuff.
And that yes, and that is owned by Devin Sullivan.
Okay.
who's a heck of an athlete
Oh, yeah.
at East High. And his mother, Lisa Rossi Sullivan, who I taught with for many, many years. Great lady, great teacher. And they have decided to help us out. So they bring it out every day and bring it in.
I wondered who was doing
They
it.
have been super with us.
Oh,
So
isn't that
it's been really nice.
Well, I mean, I always knew it was in there, but I like that it draws you in because especially people are walking, they're looking for something to do before they get lunch. Stop in, right? I think it's a great location. You can't beat it. So if someone's looking at this and hearing all about this and they say, I want to get involved, not just nominating someone, but I want to get involved. Is there a way that they can help other than sponsor?
The first step is come that Friday night.
Okay, perfect.
So, it's free.
Yeah.
You just come. You can have a nice little meal. You can mingle with us, meet the directors.
Yeah.
And I do want to read the directors' names. So
do.
if anybody's got any questions, they know any of these people, talk to us.
Yeah.
And the directors right now, we've got a great group. Irene Furness, Joe McKenna, Rich Fiacco, our president, Larry French, Ryan Beweiler, Matt Rhodes, Ray Lawson, Lisa Illig, Barb Smith, Brian Rose, John Abercrombie, and myself. Yeah. So if you know any of them and you want some questions, just let us know.
That's a who's who. You guys got a good board there.
Yeah, it's a good group. It really is. And we do a bowling tournament.
Yeah.
We raise money with a bowling
really?
tournament. Yeah, we do. We've held it in November, and we're talking about moving it.
Okay.
And we think the weekend we found to move it to was the weekend before the Super Bowl.
Oh, perfect.
Nothing going on.
Nothing.
So come on
that's
down
a great
and
idea.
bowl a couple games and
well, keep us updated. Keep us updated on that because we definitely want to promote that too.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck. I know the planning's going well. So it's again the 13th and 14th, the actual induction ceremony. March 14th starts at 1 at CMOG. Thanks so much for being on the show. Let's do this again.
Yes, Frank, thank you very much. We appreciate your support. It's been great. You are the voice of Corning, and yes, you are. But so we appreciate this.
I'm going to nominate myself next year.
There we go.
Okay.
You got it.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Frank.
For those 3 plays I made. We'll be right back.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Looking pre-owned vehicle you can trust? Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has over 2,000 quality pre-owned vehicles ready for you. Cars, trucks, SUVs, every make, every model, every budget. All inspected, reconditioned, and backed by a team that puts your peace of mind first. After the sale, using the latest technology, our certified technicians deliver dependable, honest service you can trust. Over 2,000 pre-owned vehicles, 18 locations. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. We're taking deals the other guys won't.
Every as a community, a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups, communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
Thank you to Joe Tobia for being on the program this morning. The Corning Painted Post Sports Hall of Fame coming up on March 14th, starting at 1 p.m. at CMOG, but we brought it to you this morning because we not only wanted you to prepare for the event, also learn a little bit more about the hall and how you can nominate someone if you are interested. Let's go to some viewer comments. How come us sane people are not protesting? We have jobs, we care for our kids, we help our mom and dad, take care of our grandparents, and vote for change. I don't feel sorry for someone who could have made better choices. Ken writes in, you probably already commented on this, but I was wondering if you saw that Hochul has put the New York State taxpayers on the hook to pay for the daycare of 2-year-olds in New York City for 2 years, calling it To Care. Her handlers are trying to get Mom Donnie to endorse Hochul using New York State taxpayer dollars. Absolutely. Also to endorse her, but also to keep the Democrat Socialists of America from primarying her or supporting her primary opponent. That's obviously a major concern for her. Now, a couple quick things, and then we're going to talk about New York. Thank you for that opportunity, Ken. Trump does plan to meet with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. She has in the past said that she would give her Nobel Peace Prize to Trump for all that he's done. I'm assuming that is only magnified after the capture of Maduro. He said it would be a great honor if she gives him her Nobel Prize. I understand she's coming in next week sometime, and I look forward to saying hello to her, he told Hannity. Okay. Let's talk New York State issues. We can go back to, there's a really interesting piece by Carol Markowitz talking about the fanning of the flames of ICE hatred by politicians that is putting everyone at risk. If we have a chance before the program's over, we'll bring that up, but I have to talk about New York State issues and Venezuela. One quick thing about Venezuela, Mike Pompeo, you recall the name, you remember the name Mike Pompeo. He was the 6th director of the Central Intelligence Agency and the 70th U.S. Secretary of State. He says the capture of Venezuelan tyrant and narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro is a triumph for the United States and one which President Donald Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the great warriors who executed last Saturday's mission deserve every plaudit. Thanks to this administration, we could be looking at a future in which Venezuelan drugs are off American streets, migrants returning home to build a better future in a free and prosperous Venezuela, and Maduro's authoritarian allies in Beijing, Tehran, and Moscow no longer have a beachhead from which to wreak havoc throughout the Americas. But that immense achievement could evaporate if we don't get the next part right. According to reports, the administration is demanding that interim President Delcy Rodriguez commit to cracking down on drug trafficking, kicking out foreign operatives hostile to the United States, ending the sale of oil to U.S. adversaries, and eventually facilitating free elections. These are absolutely the correct priorities, but we should be under no illusion. None of the first 3 demands will be met if we do not loudly and publicly prioritize the restoration of Venezuelan democracy. As a Secretary of State in the first Trump administration, I dealt with Rodriguez and her cohort firsthand and can personally attest to their hardline socialist anti-American credentials. There is zero reason to believe that Rodriguez and her cronies will do anything more than attempt to buy time while securing their position as part of a reconstructed Maduro and all but name government. These people are ideologically and financially committed to the horrible governing model that has destroyed their once wealthy country and will do everything in their power to keep the status quo in place. Such an outcome would completely defeat the purpose of America's intervention and in the long term would undermine President Trump's goal of asserting American dominance on the Western Hemisphere. This isn't regime change. It's recovering Venezuela's existing constitutional order, which was trampled upon by the illegitimate Maduro regime, but is in fact the country's true legal governing authority. And from a position of pure self-interest, it's the only way to ensure that the most pro-American, pro-free market voices take power in Venezuela and prevent our adversaries from regaining their foothold in our hemisphere. None of this will be easy. But if the administration wants to maximize the gains of the past week, committing to a roadmap that empowers Venezuela's legitimate democratic opposition is the only way forward. All right, that was Mike Pompeo. When we come back, New York State issues. Keep your comments coming in. I appreciate it, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
In Albany, Buffalo, was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Because even one attack
is one too many.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from Rick this morning. Haven't heard from Trump other than the empty oil tanker he hijacked. Not sure if the second tanker was empty. Doesn't matter. Tankers were stolen. You haven't heard anything from Trump? And he said, Maha, my ears are burning. Put Kennedy and Oz on the stolen empty oil tanker. Stolen? So it's stolen? Okay. With their new dietary guidelines and set sail off into the sunset. No more speedboats being blown up. What's with that? Steal oil instead of stopping drug flow? That's what's up. You know, I poke a lot of fun at a lot of the nonsense Trump pulls. But you know he's going to have us all in a bad way with this nonsense thinking he can do whatever he wants to whomever he wants without any consequences for his actions being levied. You know he doesn't care any more about me as he does you. He cares about Donald and no one else, just Donald. Now a dead woman in Minneapolis and nothing but excuses from Trump and his band of merry men and women. The mayor of Minneapolis said it best. You all heard it. I did learn today that JD ain't any smarter than Trump, and that's a fact. That's Rick. All right. In New York, taking advantage of a generous New York State program to aid his ailing mother, Bilal Hassan signed up a dozen family members to work as her caregivers. Over 6 years, they were paid $348,000 to look after the elderly woman at a Manhattan apartment. Except the mom was in Bangladesh the entire time. Yes, this notoriously fraudulent New York health program lost $1.2 billion of your money and my money to scammers and middlemen. They're calling it Minnesota multiplied by 10. It's called the Consumer Directed Personal Assistance Program that has lost New York taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars to waste and fraud. It was first set up in '94. You don't need to know the whole history. You can find this at the Post. But again, they're calling it Minnesota multiplied by 10. So that's why I'm glad that, and this is a little different instance of what Trump pulled back money on from New York, but it's nice to see that J.D. Vance setting up that essentially a task force to look into fraud throughout the country. Hochul and Mamdani, to Ken's point, announced plans to make New York child care universal. The program would be for 2-year-olds. I do believe this is being done to keep a primary challenger away from the Democrat Socialists of America, even though Hochul said, and this isn't going to go well with them and Mamdani, that taxing the rich is off the table. She told PIX 11, she said, I don't think it makes sense to tax anyone, or the wealthy in particular, for just the sake of raising taxes. We're trying to do some internal cost cutting, but also a lot of our revenue comes from Wall Street bonuses when they do well. We don't need the money outside the revenues. That's not going to go well. When we return, the Democrat Socialists of America, they're chomping at the bit to take her out in a primary or in even a third-party race. When we come back, I've got a comment from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, and we're going to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So get your last-second comments in, and we will be right back.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
Hi, this is Till, owner of House Hesselsen's in Amara Heights. At Hesselsen's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselsen's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselsen's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Elmira Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselsen's studio. Ken writes in, no more drug boats are being blown up because the Venezuelan cartels can't find any more stupid people to pilot them. Drug prices are rising in the U.S., so guess what? Trump's war on drugs is working. Thank you, Ken. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano released a statement about his outrage at Hochul's administration downgrading assaults on prison staff. This was I believe we brought this to you earlier in the week. It was coming out of the New York Post. They did research where basically Hochul was fudging the numbers. This is what Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who will be on next Friday, a week from today, next Friday's program, saying, I'm outraged after learning that Kathy Hochul's administration has unilaterally decided to downgrade assaults committed by inmates in our prison system against staff. Under new guidelines, assaults will be reclassified as harassment and disruptive behavior. Make no mistake, this is just a PR and election year move, allowing the governor to pretend she has control of the prison system by saying assaults are down. The fact of the matter is, she does not have control of the rising violence and dangerous situation inside our correctional facilities. And despite her insulting attempt to change the definition of assault, this will do nothing to reduce the actual rising level of assaults plaguing correctional officers and staff. This is just another slap in the face of our brave corrections officers who work a dangerous job to keep us safe. If Governor Hochul truly wants to reduce the number of inmate assaults on staff and other inmates, she would appeal the HALT Act and truly show our correctional officers New York State has their backs instead of stabbing them in the back with this politically motivated unilateral action. Governor Hochul, do the right thing and reverse this insulting and dangerous decision. So thank you to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for that statement on a story from earlier in the week. Going back quickly to some of the issues that we had mentioned, George Conway, he's running for I think Jerry Nadler's seat. George Conway was the one that just treated his now ex-wife, Kellyanne Conway, so poorly, going out there and just, it was kind of like when you started to first realize about what people call Trump derangement syndrome, because he was willing to basically insult his wife and his wife's boss out in the public on a regular basis, and he started to love the limelight, and now he's running. I don't think he stands a chance, but he's running for Jerry Nadler's old seat. He called, well, this is what he said. Let me quote it exactly. I don't want to say how he did. He said, the domestic terrorists are ICE. This is what's happening here in this country, which is just hard to believe. We have a criminal president running a lawless government trying to intimidate people of this country through force. Pramila Jayapal, the representative, said Congress has to cut off the funding for so-called rogue ICE agents. All right. Now, as I mentioned, Carolyn Markowitz had mentioned how the kind of the fanning the flames on this is putting everybody's at risk. They have to be honest with their inflamed followers and tell them that a country must have the ability to decide who enters and who doesn't. If they can't do that, they should be honest with the rest of us and run on a platform of opening our borders to all comers. But the party seems to have few grown-ups willing to take the political risk of telling their violent, incensed base to calm down. Until they find a way to turn the temperature down, we're all at risk from the violence that the Democrats stoke. That's Carolyn Markowitz at the New York Post. Also, Trump predicted, I know we're jumping around a lot of last-second issues, Trump predicts that the U.S. will run Venezuela for at least a year, I would say much longer even. We will rebuild it in a very profitable way. We are going to be using oil, and we're going to be taking oil. We're getting oil prices down, and we're going to be giving money to Venezuela, and they desperately need. The president initially said only time will tell when asked how long the U.S. will have a direct say in their affair. But when reporters suggested various periods of time, Trump admitted, I would say much longer when a year came up. Trump also did not say when new election in Venezuela might take place after he endorsed Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, as the head of the Caracas government, rather than opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who he was going to meet with next week. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has insisted that such a vote happen as the final step in transitioning Venezuela out of 25 years of left-wing authoritarian domination that has sapped the country's wealth. Trump did not say Wednesday whether he had spoken to Rodriguez, but Marcos speaks to her all the time. I will tell you that we are in constant communication with her and the administration. The president said, adding that the current Venezuelan government is giving us everything that we feel is necessary. They're treating us with great respect. As you know, we're getting along very well with the administration that is there right now. That does it. I can't believe it. We are completely out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to all the great comments and the discussions we had this morning. Thank you for the waves. We also want to thank legislator Joe Tobia, who was in for the Corning Penny Post Sports Hall of Fame. We appreciate him being a part of the broadcast this morning. We're going to have a very exciting week next week. Do not miss Monday morning's edition. I'm telling you now, do not miss Monday morning's edition, but don't miss any morning with Frankly Speaking. Here on WYDC TV Big Fox, we will see you bright and early on Monday. I look forward to it already.
Well, it's strained.
It is?
It's a repetitive motion injury. Do you do this a lot?
Well, I do give out a lot of checks. Now, what about this pain in my back?
Tender, huh? Do you play any contact sports?
Thank you.
Wow! That explains it. Stick to friendly nods for the next couple of weeks.
Sophia A., grade 4, absent, because transportation was absent.
Julio M., grade 6, absent, because Wi-Fi was absent.
Maria J., grade 12, absent, because childcare for siblings was absent.
Jacob O., grade 12, absent, because housing was absent.
Aisha S.,
Olivia H.,
Darren L.,
Cole W.,
Preston L., absent.
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 Because healthcare, anti-bullying,
Mental health support was absent.
We're calling roll on the 15 million absent students.
Their reasons why are very real.
And yet the solution is a present, caring adult to help them along their path.
When communities and schools is present,